Hello. We'll be looking at Go and Catch a Falling Star by John Donne today. Let us first look at John Donne himself. Um, as much as interesting as his poetry is, John Donne's life itself is quite very interesting, as you would have heard. John Donne was born in 1572. He lived in post-Renaissance era in Britain, and he was influenced by the newly rediscovered Greek and Roman knowledge. Donne's aim was to become a courtier, not a poet. A courtier was a member of the government of Queen Elizabeth I's government. Therefore, most of his poetry were just circulated among his friends and never published. However, he had one impediment. Donne was born into a prominent Roman Catholic family, one of his ancestors being Sir Thomas More, and this posed a serious disadvantage when it comes to his ambitions. Donne was at Oxford by the age of 12, but he was not awarded a degree because of his religious beliefs. Consequently, he comes back to London and he becomes a law student at Lincoln's Inn. As a young man, he was unencumbered by financial worries because of the fact that his father was quite very wealthy, and he inherited his father's legacy after his death. So Donne in London fashioned himself as Jack Donne, and they say that he had devoted himself his mornings into philosophy and foreign literature, and his afternoons to socializing. One of his contemporaries described him as, I quote, a great visitor of ladies, a great frequenter of plays, and a great writer of conceited verses, end quote. By this time, he had spent his legacy and had converted to Anglicanism. Donne became the private secretary of Sir Thomas Egerton. He was the Lord Keeper of the Great Seal of Queen Elizabeth. In 1601, he secretly marries a 17-year-old girl called Anne More, a relative of Sir Thomas Egerton, and as a result, he was jailed and dismissed from his position. It was while he was in jail, Donne wrote his shortest poem, which goes as John Donne, Anne Donne, Undone. For years, Donne had to live off his friends and family members. Throughout all this, Donne continued to read voraciously and wrote poems and prose. Persuaded by James I, Donne became a clergyman in 1615, and he rose to be the Dean of St. Paul's in London. Next, let's look at metaphysical poetry briefly. Metaphysics was a part of medieval philosophy. It was about being and becoming. John Donne, Andrew Marvell, and other 17th century poets were called metaphysical poets due to the intensity of intellect, self-conscious inventiveness, and bold emotions in their work, which set them apart from Elizabethan poetry and courtly love poems. The new style he forged came to be called, by later critics, metaphysical poetry, a term that reflected the qualities that I have just discussed. During the time, metaphysical poetry was called strong lines. With regard to poetry, the term metaphysics is used in literal, not philosophical sense. Donne introduced a complex vision of life in a much more complex style compared to the Elizabethan love poets. Metaphysical poetry is known for its startling, unexpected imagery, its intricate figure of speech, its philosophical musings and reference to obscure fields of knowledge, its irregular meter, and its verbal wit. In 1590, when Donne started writing, his innovativeness in both the subject matter and the style of his poetry was considered truly revolutionary. Courtly love poems, in contrast, were sonnets. Donne introduced other lyrical modes and stanzas in addition to sonnets. Courtly love poems were descriptive, whereas Donne argues the poem, making reading a metaphysical poem like figuring out the outer solution to a riddle or trying to untangle a complicated knot. Samuel Coleridge, commenting on Donne's inventiveness, states, "It is, I quote, forge and fire blast," end quote, that could twist, I quote, iron poker into true love knots, end quote. Donne, commenting on his own style in one of his poems, says, I quote, "I sing not siren-like to tempt, for I am harsh," end quote. Similar to Shakespeare, Donne bases the rhythm and sound of his poems on spoken English. Criticizing metaphysical poetry, John Dryden, a neoclassical poet, said that Donne's poetry, I quote, "perplexed the mind of the fair sex with nice speculations of philosophy." Here, nice means foolish. Let's look at the main characteristics of metaphysical poetry briefly. One, it uses metaphysical conceit. What is a conceit? A far-fetched and ingenious extended comparison, which is original and logical. Then metaphysical wit, made of heterogeneous ideas that are yoked together by violence. Number three, technique of argument. Usually there is an argument with the poet's lover, God, or himself. Number four, use of learning, intellect, and philosophy. The poet plays with words and uses knowledge gained from geography, medicine, astronomy, chemistry, physics, and alchemy. Number five, poems are based on poets' personal experiences or moments in life. Therefore, they are lyrical in nature. Number six, use of colloquial everyday language. Number seven, abrupt dramatic endings. Number eight, rugged meter to convey the attitudes and purpose, in contrast to smooth meter used in courtly love poems and Elizabethan sonnets. Conventional themes handled unconventionally. For an example, love with its physical sexual side, the union of soul, and religious devotion were some of the themes that were handled by Donne. Number 10, metaphors created from all spheres of life and learning. Number 11, some psychological analyses. Number 12, bold and innovative in selection of subject matter and in the use of new knowledge and learning. In the song, the poem Go and Catch a Falling Star is popularly known as Song. John Donne criticizes misogyny, sexism, prejudice, and chauvinism on women like women. Let's look at the poem itself. Go and catch a falling star. Go and catch a falling star. Get with child a mandrake root. Tell me where all past years are, or who cleft the devil's foot. Teach me to hear mermaids sing, or to keep off envy's stinging, and find what wing serve to advance an honest mind. If thou beest born to strange sights, things invisible to see, write 10,000 days and nights till age snow white hair on thee. Thou, when thou returnest, wilt tell me all strange wonders that befell thee, and swear nowhere lives a woman true and fair. If thou findest one, let me know, such a pilgrimage were sweet. Yet do not, I would not go, though at next door we might meet. Though she were true when you met her, and last till you write your letter, yet she will be false ere I come to 2 or 3. Let's look at the themes of the poem first. Status of the Elizabethan woman, infidelity, male chauvinism, misogyny, inconsistency of human nature. Let's look at the analysis of the poem. The 3 stanzas of the poem rhymes A, B, C, C, D, D, D. There is uniformity in the number of lines and even in the shape of the poem. One might see this equality as a male poet privileging order and reason over chaos, which is usually associated with women. Women are idolized or even idolized in courtly love poems as pure, faithful Madonnas. This, of course, is unrealistic, especially for someone with first-hand experience in the court intrigues, in which women played no small part. Unlike many Renaissance poems idealizing women, song satirizes women using hyperbole. Hyperbole is a form of extreme exaggeration. The poem may sound anti-feminist or misogynistic, but it must be viewed in the context of metaphysical poems. Therefore, it should be read not so much as a condemnation of women, but as a criticism of courtly love poems. In fact, Donne, far from being a misogynist, had been described by one of his friends as a great visitor of ladies. Therefore, it is more prudent to read the song as a perfect example of Donne's playfulness with metaphysical conceit and female sexuality. Stanza 1. Go and catch a falling star, get with child a mandrake root. Tell me where all past years are, O who cleft the devil's foot. Teach me to hear mermaids singing, or to keep off envy's stinging, and find what wind serves to advance an honest mind. Imagine a man who has acquired better view of women and female sexuality as a result of his numerous romantic dalliances in the court of Elizabethan England. The poem opens with the poetic persona issuing a list of impossible tasks for someone like a knight of the courtly love poems who wants to prove himself. Catching a falling star, becoming pregnant with the aid of a mandrake root, and finding out where the time we spent harbored itself, who cleft the devil's foot, how to hear mermaids singing without losing one's head, how to keep those who were envious from harming others, and what brought good fortune to honest people. The impossibility of performing these tasks illustrate the impossibility of finding a beautiful woman who also happened to be honest. The entire stanza is a series of imperatives used in rapid-fire succession. The use of imperatives suggests strong emotions. Looking at the metaphors used in this stanza, a falling star or a meteoroid is a bright, beautiful thing that is reduced to ashes in the end. People make wishes when they see one. Donne, influenced by the increasing focus on sciences, is trying to show that trying to catch an honest, beautiful woman is like trying to catch a meteoroid. Both attempts would be disillusioning as well as disastrous. Mandrake is a plant whose forked roots said to resemble human torso and legs. The plant is said to have been used in witchcraft. It is also used as an aphrodisiac, a cathartic, a poison, and a narcotic. Making a baby with the aid of a mandrake root is an unnatural act. A beautiful woman who is faithful is also unnatural. Beautiful women are by nature fickle, according to the voice. However, in this context, Making a baby is impossible, as the poet is asking a man to become pregnant by a male plant. Singing of the mermaids, or more correctly the sirens, lure unsuspecting sailors to their doom, according to Homer in the Odyssey. Similarly, women, according to the voice, lure men to their destruction. Looking at the second stanza, if thou beest born to strange sights, things invisible to see, ride 10,000 days and nights till age snow white hair on thee. Thou, when thou returnest, wilt tell me all strange wonders that befell thee, and swear nowhere live a woman true and fair. The second stanza focuses on feminine virtues. The poet continues his monologue with the imaginary listener and assures him with complete conviction that even if the listener were to go on a quest around the world, experiencing strange sights and things invisible to see, looking for a woman both faithful and beautiful for 10,000 days and nights until age turns his hair snow white, he would, upon his return, swear to the poet that he had not come across a single woman who was both true and fair. The stanza is a single sentence in the form of a conditional clause, signaling the poetic persona's belief in the impossibility of accomplishing the task at hand. Looking at the third stanza, if thou findest one, let me know, such a pilgrimage were sweet. Yet do not, I would not go, though at next door we might meet, though she were true when you met her, and last till you write your letter, yet she will be false ere I come to 2 or 3. In the third stanza, the third stanza is made of two clauses. The first is an if clause. He likens the journey of the listener to a pilgrimage and asks the listener to let him know should he if he should find a woman who is both beautiful and faithful in the course of his pilgrimage, to let him know. He says such a discovery would make all the hardships associated with the pilgrimage sweet. Immediately, he takes back his word and tells his listener not to bother. Donne says that if the listener were to find a woman who was both faithful and beautiful just next door, she would remain in that condition only as long as it would take the listener to compose a letter and send it to him. However, she would become unfaithful within the short time it would take the poetic persona to walk next door, not just to one person, but to 2 or 3. Looking at the techniques used in this poem, Donne uses very conversational tone and language. In addition, he uses a startling series of unconventional images such as meteors and magical plants. In addition, Donne also uses unusual comparisons or conceits. In this poem, the poet brings in a series of arguments like a consummate lawyer to prove his point. The argumentative style gives the different parts of the poem a sense of interconnectedness, while forcing the reader to pay close attention to what is being said. I would like to leave you with several questions regarding the poem. 1. To whom is the speaker talking? What do you think has occasioned the writing of this poem? Number 2. In the second stanza, what does the speaker say his listener will discover about a woman both true and fair? Number 3. In the last stanza, what does the speaker say he will not do? Why? Number 4. What hyperbole or exaggeration does the speaker use to make his point? Number 5. How would you describe the speaker's tone? List at least 3 words that reveal his attitude. Do you think he is being serious? Number 6. In terms of their themes, Sonnet 141 by William Shakespeare and Song by Donne, in which poet has put the theme across best according to your view? Illustrate your answer with examples from the text. It is said that song is a hyperbolic expression of the moral depravity of women. What is your view on this statement? Number 8, discuss with close reference to the song the extent to which it supports the characteristics of a metaphysical poetry. With that, we come to the end of this video. Let's meet in another video shortly.